Hi everybody, this is Terry and Dana from Toad Hopper Ranch, and still never got around to doing an introduction video, but that's Terry, I'm Dana, and we had kind of a rough summer. We both ended up with COVID, and we're still getting over the effects of that, but we're going to be okay. And Terry had a hip replacement this year, so he's still kind of gimping around with the cane there a little bit, but he's doing all right. So we're kind of going to do an end of the garden tour. It got away from us.
It was an experiment.
It was. We planted on virgin ground, never had anything plowed up or grown here before, so we just wanted to see what we would get, and we did okay. We got a lot of tomatoes and peppers, not as many as we would have liked. 3 pickings of beans, 4 pickings. This is the one you're picking beans or sorting those out. 4 pickings of beans.
So probably half a dozen meals altogether of fresh green beans.
Just a quick story about our beans. Our neighbor brought them over, and
that's funny.
He says, "Here, I got these in town. They don't really live here all the time, but they went to like a not a dollar store, but like a Big Lots or something, and picked them up cheap." And he says, "Here, I'm not going to plant all these." So we planted them, and we came up with all different kinds of beans.
Yeah, he had about a 5-pound sack, and the price was like $2 on it. I thought, you know, normally you pay $2 for 25 seeds.
Yeah.
And
talk about a mixed bag.
It really was. We had we just pulled them up, and we had purple ones. We had the seeds. We had black ones. We had white ones. We had red ones. Yeah,
they were bush beans, and they were
vine, semi-vine.
Oh yeah, we just had everything.
So next year we'll probably stick with a known variety, probably Blue Lake or something like
that. Yeah, and a little more support for whatever type of bean that they are, because they just kind of rambled around the garden a little bit. But I'm going to turn this around and just give you a
keep in mind, we have other garden videos. We had a garden that was in the same place for almost 20 years back in Ohio, and it had probably an additional 6 inches of anemones added to it, anywhere from cow manure to
it was
wood bark that's ground up, and it was lake bottom to start with. It had been a swamp or something, so we were spoiled when we come down here. We were lucky just to have dirt.
Yeah.
And actually at the one end of the garden she'll show you is where the rocks start.
Yeah.
So, you know, our neighbors had to actually bring in 2 feet of dirt to plant their garden in.
Yeah, we were blessed to actually have dirt in this part of the Ozarks, because mostly it's rock. But
yeah, this is going to work out. We're hobby gardeners. We don't claim to be homesteaders or anything like that. And I've been involved in agriculture my entire life, whether it be commercial or hobby or whatever, and this is strictly hobby.
Yeah.
And our goal is to eventually supply the majority of our own produce, especially the fresh stuff. And we do now with the lettuce and stuff. We've been eating salads all year.
Oh yeah, we have a couple of Greenstalks, which I highly recommend. They're about $100 a piece. They're a little pricey, but boy, you know, to have control of your garden and not have invasive weeds coming up through it and stuff. We're still eating. I replanted some lettuce, and we're just waiting for that to come up. But without further ado, I need to turn the camera around and just show you our
the grand finale. Now, this is not what our gardens look like in Ohio, and like I said, our goal is to eventually produce our own fresh produce, the majority of it anyhow.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I'll turn the camera over to her because she's counting the minutes here.
Yeah, I'm counting the minutes. All right. So this is we had 3 gardens. This is the middle one, actually. We had 2 in the front and 1 in the back, and the one in the back we don't even want to talk about because it just I have no words. But we had like 40 tomato plants, which I know is excessive. We had issues with rotting. As soon as they started getting ripe, they started rotting. And so that's a soil thing. It needs, is it nitrogen?
Yeah.
So,
probably not enough there.
Yeah. And then we had some peppers, and we're trying to revive the peppers. But we cleared away a lot of the, Terry actually did this because with the COVID, I had not been able to do a lot. And, excuse me, and here we had this mess. There was actually a row of carrots, which didn't do well, some beets, which did okay, but they got buried in here, and then we just pulled up a whole bunch of beans right here along the edge, and they did pretty good, amazingly, for virgin ground. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a rocky ridge that comes from the top of our driveway down across the yard.
Follows the drive.
Yeah, it kind of follows the drive and it goes back in the woods. So anything that you want to do here is you're just digging into rock. But there is dirt from here over. So we were very blessed. That's not something that a lot of people get around here. I put these little flower spinny things up because actually I think they're pretty, and somebody said to do that because it would keep the moles away, and we do have a serious mole problem. Here is the Brussels sprouts that I have been fighting worms all summer to keep them off, and I think I've been successful. We still don't have any Brussels sprouts, but here they are. And okra, and so I've been picking okra. I fermented a couple jars of it, so we'll see how that goes. They have such a beautiful flower. It reminds me of a peony, but that flower will turn into a pod, which this is probably getting ready to pick. I read that you don't want them to get too big because then they get fibery and stuff. Our flowers, this was all virgin ground too, where the flowers are, and you can see the weeds are monstrous here. We just could not, you can't even tell that this is a flower garden because of the grass is so thick in there. I had dill growing in here, which wasn't successful, and there was worms. They ate the dill. I didn't have that back in Ohio. Our zinnias, I grew everything from seed, and they actually did pretty good. This was full of chamomile, this right here, and it did quite well, and then we had a windstorm that knocked everything down, and they just never came back. And this is we always have a tunnel, and we usually grew beans on them back in Ohio, but this just has morning glories on it. And I have little LED lights on here. See them right there. Yeah, this thing lights up at night because it's solar powered. So here's the flowers. A lot of morning glories, zinnias. I mean, not morning glories, but the zinnias and marigolds and sunflowers, Mexican sunflowers. And that's pretty much what's in there. And they all did okay. They got some kind of a fungus because we've had some weird weather here. Lots of rain, super hot, dry, and then all that. In here, this is our upper garden, and we had zucchini, which did okay. The bugs got it really bad, and we had spaghetti squash, which got quite a few of those. I gave some of them away. On the fence over there, we had cucumbers. They didn't do all that great. And then we had some peppers here, so we're trying to nurse these along. These are all jalapenos. So that's it for our garden tour late in the year. Well, yeah, Terry wants you to see Mexican sunflowers, so let me zoom in on that. They did really well. We gave some of those plants to our neighbors, and they really enjoyed them too. So, anyway. Back off of my big face. This is an old camera, and it doesn't always work like it should. But anyway, I just wanted to touch base. Toad Hopper Ranch is alive and well, getting over the COVID, and like I said, we're going to be okay. our garden needs lots of amendments. We need manure and wood chips and all kinds of stuff to help it to do better. Hopefully we get a fence up around it because we've had a deer problem. Moles are really bad. They're hard to get rid of. And but otherwise, we're here and we're glad you're watching. So we'll get around hopefully and do another video soon. God bless.